All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Marilynn Cabiness. I'm the owner and CEO of Cabiness Coaching and Consulting Group. And we are here to share some nuggets today with you about what's next. The topic of discussion is what's next and how to successfully prepare for life after graduation. So we know that some people have a what may be considered a perfect plan, but there are some of us who may not have that plan in place. So these that have gathered today are going to share some of their life's journey. They're going to share some of the factors that contributed to their decisions to attend college or not attend college, and also share some of their experiences in the marketplace. So with that being said, we're going to go around and just introduce everybody. I've already told you who I am. And so we're going to start out with Miss Monica McMillan.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Um, my name, as she stated, my name is Monica McMillan. Currently, I am working full-time as a workforce program supervisor for the Virginia Department of Juvenile Justice. Also still taking a few classes at ODU, um, towards my bachelor's for human services. I also currently sit as a Brunswick County School Board member, and also I volunteer as well as a vice president for the Brunswick County NAACP. And very active in my church. I like to talk about my church as well because it's very involved in the community. I belong to Highway Ministries under the leadership of Bishop Darren Gay Sr. and First Lady Danielle Gay, where I serve in the choir and also with the youth ministry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Monica, and welcome again. Thank you so much. All right. We're going to go over to Mr. Alfonso Seward.
I'm Alfonzo Seward, known as Fonz, actually professor of community college justice. I'm
Uh-oh,
the
Fonz, you're kind of your
faculty
connection is a
in
little
Brunswick County.
Fonz, can you hear me? Your connection is a little spotty. I want to make sure you're clear and we can hear you. You want to start again, Fonz? Let me see if I can hear you
Hey, can
better.
y'all hear me?
Yes, that
Can
sounds
y'all hear
better.
me better
Yep.
now?
Yes.
All right, so my name is Alfonzo Stewart. I'm a professor of criminal justice at Southside Virginia Community College. I'm also the president of the NAACP in Brunswick County, and I'm a member of the board of supervisors in Brunswick, and I represent the Sturgeon District. And I have one daughter that has an associate's degree in criminal and an associate's degree, and one that has a master's degree.
All right. Thank you,
And
Fonz.
I in the community.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome again. And now Miss Tiffani Vincent.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffani Vincent. I currently teach first grade for Charles County Public Schools. I also am an entrepreneur. I have a podcast called Tiff's Talk, and I do various other things in the Brunswick County community, even though I'm still not there. I've sat on numerous boards. I've also helped people to start up their podcasts, and I've also worked behind the scenes with helping people to create their social media and marketing pages. I'm also very active in my church. I am a deacon and I'm a choir director at my church as well.
Thank you so much, Tiffani, and welcome again. All right. Next, we're going to have Miss Kayla Jones.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla. I'm originally from Brunswick County, Virginia. Currently, I live in Midlothian near Richmond. I'm a physician assistant. Currently, I'm the clinical director for Game Day Men's Health, which is a men's health group in Richmond. I'm the clinical director for two clinics and team lead. I received a bachelor's degree in history from the University of Virginia in 2016 and my master's in physician assistant studies in 2020 from South University.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla. Welcome again. All right, Mr. Tiquan Goode.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Tiquan Goode. In just a couple of days, I will be a graduate of Virginia State University with a bachelor's in family consumer science, concentration in family, child, and community development. But I'll still be a student. I'll be moving to Greensboro, attending UNC Greensboro for a master's or PhD program in human development and family studies. Also, I am an intern with cooperative extension at VSU.
Amazing. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome again, Tiquan. And last but not least, our baby of the group, Miss Jarielle Seward.
Hello, my name is Jarielle Seward. I am from Brunswick County. Um, Clearly, my dad is also on the panel here tonight. Um, so I have my bachelor's of science in criminology, law and society from George Mason University. I have my master's of science in criminal justice focused in legal studies from Liberty, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in criminal justice at Liberty as well. I work at Riverside Regional Jail as a therapeutic cognitive community counselor, where I started off as a booking technician. And I also am very active in the community, working with my dad's campaign, or in the church, I'm the youth director. So I do different stuff there, back and forth.
That sounds amazing. Thank you again, Jarielle, for coming on. So we're going to jump right on into the questions. And Jarielle, we're going to start with you. What were some of the challenges you faced? Or I can't say did you, we all have challenges, so I know there were some. But what were the challenges you faced when you knew that next step was coming of graduating from high school? What were some of the challenges you faced?
So I graduated from Brunswick in 2020, so that was the year of COVID. So there was a huge adjustment because we were all excited about graduation or even just simply prom. And then we ended up getting neither due to the crisis in the world. So that year was a hard transition period because colleges were either closing, not taking new students, or you were moving to campus to be confined to your quarters because of quarantine. So I stayed home for that first year. And I would say that, of course, being at home, nothing really changes. I worked throughout the semester at the Y pretty much every day during that year. So when I did transition in the summer of 2021, I faced a lot of homesickness because I had gotten used to taking my classes online and still being at home and working and always being with my mom, my dad, and my sister. It was a different sense of flexibility. And then it was kind of like I kind of moved 3.5 hours away, not abruptly because I prepared for it mentally, but I did face a lot of homesickness in that adjustment period. I would say I moved to school in August. I don't think I felt fully comfortable with the campus surroundings and settings probably until maybe towards the end of first semester, like October or November, when I finally started meeting friends and things of that nature. George Mason is a very large open campus, so even just getting lost a couple of times trying to find classes or different things like that were like small challenges. Academically, I would say that the structure changed based on the professor. While I was in high school, I took classes at Southside, and I had Ms. Freeman for my English teacher. And she's very, very precise when it comes to English writing. And I've encountered professors who did not want MLA or traditional APA, and they wanted other types of writing or different formats of sourcing. So it's about working your way through the weeds and learning what your professors like. Reading the syllabuses very thoroughly, I would say, was a challenge at first. But that's what office hours and questions are for. So if I had to give any advice behind that, I would say definitely take advantage of your professor's office hours and ask those kinds of questions if your learning environment is changing and becoming a challenge.
That's good. And so, Fonz, I'm going to come on to you next because Jarielle mentioned homesickness. So for the student or the people that choose to go to college, we see and we know that that's a common occurrence, right? People are going to get homesick. So I'm sure you were just as sick from her not being at home as she was from not being at home. So how did you all adjust as parents? And then how did you help Jarielle adjust to that homesickness?
So one of the main things was, Jarielle's very active in the community. She's always and a very good child that was very active in the house. So definitely her presence, the lack of her presence was noticeable from the start. So we already knew Jarielle's not here. Things change a lot because she was always a great big sister and those types of things like that. But what we did was, and this is so different than what a lot of parents do, we allowed her to get an apartment off campus, and we split the rent with her instead of making her stay on campus so that she could have more of a home type of experience, because Jarielle likes to cook in the kitchen. She likes her own space. She likes her own bathroom. We knew that she would be successful in the dormitories, but we felt like in an apartment where she could actually be on her own, she would be better off. Had she left straight from high school going into college, I might not have gone that route. But because she had had a year, she had gotten older, and we were dealing with COVID and all of the lockdown things and the issues that they were going to have in the cafe and stuff like that. So I started following the George Mason parents page to kind of figure out some of the obstacles that other people's children were experiencing there. And it's just like if you're reading a review for a restaurant or a hotel, you take out of it what you want to, because some people's experiences are going to be a lot different and some people are just looking to complain. And so, but I did find a lot of good information there, and I encouraged Jarielle to sign up for it as well. So I think one of the biggest things we did was getting her own apartment, trusting her with that, giving her own car, which gave her autonomy, and then that helped her go to work. And so I think that was one of the biggest things. And another thing I tell parents is, make sure, if you can afford to, make sure that your child has what they need. So we bought her a MacBook, making sure that when she showed up that she had the tools that she needed to be able to put things in place. And Jarielle's got a strong village, and I have a strong village. And so it was a lot, where our parents helped. And so I'll tell anybody that it's hard on young parents, even with two of us being in the house, my wife being a nurse and me working at the college, having that village and having that grandma support, that aunt and uncle support, that type of thing was very important in our journey.
Good. I'm gonna jump on over to Kayla. Kayla, I know, talking about a village, I'm coming to you next because I know that's something that you have. Your family definitely, you have a village that's built around you. So how did that help you overcome some of your challenges? When you chose the career to be a physician assistant, what were those challenges like? And how did you overcome those?
Yeah. So, growing up, my mom's nurse practitioner, all of my aunts are nurses. I had been on the volunteer rescue squad for about probably 4 years before undergrad. I had worked at a doctor's office since probably ninth or 10th grade. So I had a significant amount of exposure to the healthcare field. And I kind of felt like when I went to undergrad, I kind of wanted to explore other options because I didn't know if I wanted to practice medicine or if that was something that, my village had kind of coached me into. So I took some classes on public policy and law and economics, and I really did enjoy that, but I always kind of found myself going back to my roots and, wanting to ride on the ambulance and, talking to my mom about her patients, and nothing really gave me that type of interest that medicine had always, given me. So I didn't know going in undergrad that I wanted to be a PA. Like I said, I had started out at UVA doing public policy, and after my first year, I knew that that wasn't the course that I wanted to take. And so probably after my first year, I found out about the profession, because in South Hill, there's really probably only 2 or 3 PAs in South Hill, Brunswick area. There's not many down there, so it wasn't a profession that I was familiar with. But anyway, I found out about the profession, and I actually ended up majoring in history at UVA because I received my associate's degree in high school. So that majoring in history enabled me to graduate from UVA in 2 years. And so I graduated when I was 19 with a degree in history, and I took my prereqs for PA school at Southside. And yeah, I got into PA school. The prereqs for that are a bachelor's degree and then your prereqs in science, like anatomy and physiology, chemistry, biochemistry. So yeah, I applied and got in, and I had a lot of support that I think a lot of people wouldn't have, just because I had so much exposure to the healthcare field and so much support. When I was studying, I had so many resources just from colleagues on the rescue squad and my mom and aunts. But yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'm going to pivot just a little bit with that question and go back to a parent perspective. Monica, We're parents right here in what Fawn said. I know your oldest son, it hadn't been too many years that you had to send him off to college. How did you help prepare him? And what was that like?
Talik is a very what can I say? He's a very bright young man. So to help to prepare Talik, it wasn't that hard. The only part in preparing him was just to make sure that he was doing what he needed to do academically, because I was a single parent, and making sure that if he did what he needed to do, I would sacrifice and do what I have to do as a single parent. Talik was out of school to tuition, so that was different. I was working part-time when I came relocated back to Brunswick County. And I was also going to school myself to obtain my associate's degree in human services. So it was, you know, I'm not going to say it was challenging, but, working off a single parent salary, when I was working at the college, I think probably my first paycheck, you get two paychecks out of the month. So my first paycheck and most of my second paycheck went towards his tuition. And then even at that same time, I was going through medical challenges. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So the medical conditions that was going on during that time, and working part-time, I guess you would say that those were the challenges that I went through. But Talik had done what he needed to do academically, which made it much more easier on me, because after he had completed like his first year, um, because he had great academics, the chancellors had provided funding in order to assist me to make sure that his tuition was paid, because he did what he needed to do academically. He was very active on campus. He had ended up switching his major, because at first, well, not his major. At first, when he went to college, he had a assistance with JROTC. But then that wasn't what Talik wanted to go in. He didn't want to go into the military. He wanted to focus more on political science. So what I shared with Talik is whatever your heart desires, not what's going to make it better for me, but I wanted him to really go in the direction that he wanted to do, not what I wanted for him to do, just because it would have made it wouldn't have been a financial burden on me. And I'm so excited that he did follow what he wanted to do, because if not, he wouldn't be, in the places that he's in right now. So, as a parent, those were the challenges that I went through. So the only thing that I could do was just support his dreams, making sure that I was listening to what he wanted to do and not what I wanted him to do. So just being a good listener and just supporting him. That's the feedback that I could give in regards to me as a parent.
That's good. That's good. Tiquan, I'm coming on to you now. What about you? Was it hard for you to make that decision to go to college or not go to college? And if so, what were some of your challenges and how did you overcome them?
I'll say out of high school, I always knew that I was going to go to college. I don't think I ever questioned that. But it was more of once I got to college, it was a question, is this what I really want to do? And that's what, after my first year of college, I did take time to go home and work full time for 4 years before I went back to school. And it did take a lot for me to think about the decision of going back to school, because I wasn't doing too bad for myself, and was moving up pretty quickly at work. But it wasn't really fulfilling, and that's really what reminded me that I needed to go back to school and help me pursue my passion.
Good. Tiffany, I saved you for last because we were talking about the challenges and I wanted to get into, we heard some of the panelists already mention attending community colleges. And I know you attended community college, but that was not so much of a good experience for you. So can you share again how you decided to go to community college and how you overcame the challenges with even attending a community college?
Okay, so what initially happened is it was a challenge for me going to college because I decided that me and my friends, we were all going to go to Virginia State. And my grades were pretty good, but Virginia State, sorry, Taquan. Virginia State kind of lost my paperwork in the process. So I was not accepted into that college. And that's the only college I applied to because I'm like, I know that I'm going to go to Virginia State and knock it out at Virginia State, me and my friends. Well, that didn't quite happen for me. And I know I still wanted to go to go to college eventually. And I know that talking to other people, they're like, well, you get a great start going to community college. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right. So I uh started at Southside Virginia Community College, and I just didn't want to be there at all. So with me not wanting to be there, it was very evident. In my grades. I'll say it was very evident because it wasn't evident on campus because everybody knows me. I'm very social. So I was a social butterfly on campus. I actually got a job. I started working in the kitchen area. It was called Ida's Kitchen at the time. I worked a lot. I made a lot, I made very good money working there. And everybody knew me on campus. All the advisors knew me, and it was everything was great from the outside looking in. But inside, I was not doing well in my classes because I just didn't want to be there. I didn't understand how helpful going to community college was until I got into the thick of it. Because it was the same exact classes that all of my friends were taking at university. And that's what I would tell anybody. Never despise the small things and don't like look down at going to a community college and getting your start because the same exact classes that you're taking at a university your first 2 years, your freshman and sophomore year, you take them at the community college for a fraction of the price if you pay anything at all. But what really kind of made me plant my feet on solid ground at Southside was um, I was asked to I was going to be honored or awarded something at Southside for African American history, not the poetry concerns, because I actually won the poetry contest. So, like I said, from the outside looking in, everything was great, but my grades were horrible. And what made me like put my feet on solid ground is because I was asked to be honored, and then they were like, "Oh, you don't have the GPA for it." I'm like, "Oh," and so I finally buckled down and I did what I need to do to get my grades together, so I could graduate. And I eventually did graduate from Southside Virginia Community College within the time frame, and went on to transfer to Bowie State University, which is in Maryland. And I love Bowie so much. I say it all the time. I liked it so nice. I did it twice because I got my bachelor's and my master's degree from Bowie State University.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Fonz, I want to come back to you because as we've talked, we were talking, most of us on here have had a village. What about the students that don't have a village? What about the students that don't have the support? The students who, who can they talk to? What would you recommend, especially being a professor at a community college? What would you recommend for those students who don't know where to turn next?
So one of the things is, and so first generation college students, it's hard on first generation college students. So my experience was very similar to Tiquan's. I was first generation. My parents had not graduated. I really didn't understand how to navigate the process. And so, as an advisor, I always keep first generation college students and those that might not have that support mechanism in mind. And I always tell students to lean on their student services, find out what kind of scholarships are available. Because Jarielle went to school on a stay at Mason scholarship pretty much the entire time. So we had very little debt, very little things that we had to pay into it. I don't want to speak firsthand because I don't know what that experience is like. So I don't want to put myself in somebody else's place. But as a college advisor, I tell people to reach out. Even listening to Tiffani, it's really about the mindset of wanting to be there, being engaged, and finding out what's available. And other than that, it's not easy. I mean, for somebody that doesn't have the support, and those of us at the college, we recognize that to the point that we created a clothes closet, a food pantry. We started doing things like that because we know students weren't eating, because just because the cafe is available doesn't mean that everybody can eat in the cafe. And so we had to start thinking about how do we make sure that a child is not hungry, a young adult's not hungry, that's on campus, that they got clothes to be able to go on the field trips and things of that nature. And so you started working on those types of things. And so was to dance, Jarielle got on a dance club, like a little cheer squad. build friends, build relationships. Those types of things is what I would do, and tell parents to search for every scholarship that they can. Because what we find out is at the end of the year, a lot of times, to include my youngest, they don't apply for every scholarship that they can apply for because they don't realize how much college costs and how much the parents can direct those funds towards other things. So like a senior in college, in high school right now, or this semester, should be applying for every scholarship they can get and everything that's available, in my opinion. And as Monica talked about, the grades are important. So it's important that they have those grades so that they can get those scholarships.
That's good. Now,
Can
as
I
the
add? Can I add to that? So, now I had a village. However, I was a first generation college student as well. And I had a village, but my village couldn't afford to help me as much as they would have liked to help and as much as I needed to help. So my transition from Southside, paying absolutely nothing, playing around and really not having the grades, and getting to Bowie, and like it was a whole different world, because my experience transferring from Southside to Bowie was, I got all my paperwork in, everything was good, everything was great. However, um the follow through on both ends was not there. Like Fawn said, when you're first generation, it's things that you really don't know. So I went bopping up to Bowie State when I was supposed to go in. That's my first time ever going there. Y'all, I didn't have, my housing was dropped. I didn't have money at all for school. I didn't have money for food. I mean, like for the cafeteria, I didn't have money for books. It was just really just me and my faith. And like Fonz was saying, it was your mindset. So what I always like to encourage students who are going to college, especially from Brunswick, and this is no disrespect to Brunswick, a lot of times in high school in general, we don't have a grasp of how to study properly. And so I always like to share with students, you have to know how to study so you can make sure you're getting the grades that you need. But with me not having the financial support like I wanted to have, I realized that it was going to be on me, you know. And with it being on me, I decided to do what I had to do. And with much prayer, I went through my college experience at Bowie with I wound up doing it with no books and no computer.
Wow.
But I took my good study habits that I learned from Southside, because I had to learn how to study so I could get those grades up to graduate. I took my good study habits that I learned from Southside and applied them for when I went to Bowie State University. And y'all, I wound up graduating with Latin honors. It was summa cum laude, but that's only because of course, the grace of God, and because I learned that I had to get those scholarships, like Fonz was talking about. So I wound up getting on academic scholarships, president scholarships, every which way that I could get money, I did. But that required the sacrifice for me, because even though I was getting the money for the tuition, I didn't always have the money for the extras, like the room and board, or the meal plans and things of that nature. So I really buckled down and I studied, and I was able to become the first student producer to have our own team at Bowie State, because my major was broadcast journalism. But I did that because, like, I cannot reiterate, I literally studied. So I sacrificed. A lot of people have a lot of fun in college. College is a very fun place, and I have fun too. But most of my nights and my days were spent either in the production studio or in the library, because I didn't have books and I didn't have the money to buy books or computer. So I had to do what I had to do to get the grades so I could get the scholarships to be a player and to finish college.
That's good. That's good.
And my family offered me what a lot of families can offer, and that's prayer and support. And you talk about a village. Sometimes our village may not look like the people, like our family that we want, or even our friends from, past. But you create a village when you get there, especially if you're going to university, or even if you're going to the community college. Because I wound up having a village around me at the community college as well, and we pushed each other and encouraged each other to finish. So, to graduate and not just transfer midway through, to graduate from there, get our grades that we need to. So sometimes our village may not look the way we think it should look, but it's always great to have a support team around you, because not only do they encourage you, but you encourage them.
Good. That's good. Thank you, Tiffany. Kayla, I want to jump back over to you because being in the medical field, I know I've heard people, particularly nurses, talk about how hard it is to pass those tests and get through that medical school part. So once students have made the choice to jump into that career, how did you not give up? I understand we can have family support too, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you having to push through. So can you just share, how did you get to a point where you were like, oh my God, did I really choose this for a career? And now, you're struggling to pass those tests and get through that process. And what was that like for you? And how did you persevere and get through that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, the hardest part really was the classes that it took to get into PA school. Once I had landed on, PA as a profession that I wanted, it was really, I was so passionate about it and I wanted that career so bad that there was nothing that I wasn't willing to do to make that happen. And, when I started PA school, that was the first time really in my life that I truly felt a passion for what I was learning. My education it was never hard in a way that I had to force myself to do it. It was more of like a hunger to learn, because it was something that I was truly so passionate about deep down. PA school is like a year and a half of in class education, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And then the next year is clinicals with like a preceptor in different specialties. And so each aspect of the training had its own challenges, but it took a lot of sacrifice. I missed birthdays and holidays and events, and I did miss out on a lot, but I was so passionate about what I was doing that I put it above everything else, because I truly had a love for medicine.
That's good. That's good. I want to come over to talk about sacrifice, the military. So we're going to talk to Monica first. Fonz, I'm going to ask you to jump back in before we go to the next topic. But Monica, the military, what
Yes.
made that your choice as you were preparing to graduate from high school?
Well, family was a big part of that. My father, who's a two-time Vietnam veteran, Special Forces, and then I had a sister, Eartha, who also was in the military. And I thought about, I came from a strict family and I just wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world, I wanted to serve my country. So it gave me an opportunity to go out in the world and not feel so, I'm not going to say so covered in, but I had an opportunity to go outside of Brunswick County to see what else is outside of Brunswick County, to explore that. Our opportunity to just give back, to my country. And also, it provided some tuition assistance as well, too, with my education. So just having an opportunity to explore the world and just to see like what else is out there. Because, as we all know, coming from a one-light town, we don't get to see the world. So I had an opportunity to experience that. And I just wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. But my mother, she signed me in. I was 17 years old. I wanted to go in full time, but my mother would not sign the papers for me to go in full time. She said, look, I will allow for you to go into the reserves. And if that's something you like, then you can go in full time. But I ended up staying in the reserves for about 10 years, never went in full time, because by the time I came back from finishing my basic training in AIT, I had went to the community college, and I just had a change, of mind, that I didn't want to go in full time. I just wanted to be, as the full-time Army people would say, a part-time warrior, I guess, Fonz. And it was a great opportunity. I had a chance to go out of the States to Germany a few times. I had a chance to experience different areas in the military. I first started off with food service specialist because my mom's a caterer, cook. You guys know her from the cafeteria, so I just enjoy food. I'm a foodie as well too. And then I had an opportunity when I relocated to Pennsylvania to change my MOS to be a medical specialist. So I had a chance to go into that training. So it gave me an opportunity to explore different pathways to see exactly what I liked. And I still went in a different direction to human services. So sometimes, in life, you may have to keep trying until you find what your niche is. And my niche is human services. My niche is being able to help other people. And that's where I'm at today. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Dr. Seward.
That's good. Thank you for your service, Monica. Yeah, Fonz,
Thank
what's
you.
your input? How did you choose the military?
So I always had a passion for the military. I always liked hunting. I like shooting. I like the whole military. And a lot of my family members, like Monica's, was in the military. In fact, I joined the same reserve unit that Monica was in, and actually went to drill there, I think twice. And then I chickened out, didn't join the military. It was like, oh, I'm too scared, didn't go. And I went to college. But the entire time I was in college that year, I thought about the military. I was in ROTC. I just really wanted to do it. And so the next year, I joined as a military police, and it's one of the best decisions that I ever made was to go to the Army, and to be a military police, and like Monica, to get a chance to deploy overseas and see the world. And not only that, but Brunswick's not very diverse. It's a lot of us look like ourselves. When I got in the military, a lot of my friends were Hispanic, Asian, white, and so I had to learn about cultural diversity. There were so many things that I learned that I was able to share those experiences with my kids. And so, like, when it came time for Jarielle to go to school, I really wanted her to go to Southside and to see something different, a different environment before she went off to that 4-year school. And I was able to do that while she was still in high school. And so, yeah, that's why I joined the military. I always had a passion for country, defense, and things of that nature. But it gave me a lot of life skills that I was able to pass on to my children, as well.
That's good. And thank you for your service too.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we're going to pivot a little bit and go into serving the community. Many of you mentioned that even in your career choice, of course, it's not just about you and it's not just about the income that we make. My mission in my business is to revive the heartbeat of business. And I believe that is bringing the heart of work back to work by serving other people. So I'm going to jump to Tiquan and then we're going to come to Jarielle because you two are both not only pursuing academic goals, but you are also so active in your community. How do you find time for that? And what's your why behind what you do?
Finding time for that, I guess I'll start with answering that question. It's something that's always been important to me. So, like you just mentioned, money, right? It's nice to have, but I think that's definitely something I discovered when I was at Food Lion, that my passion for helping others and working in the community is always going to be my first priority. Um, and one of the reasons I ended up leaving Food Lion is because I had a discussion with my manager one day, and he said, "I see how passionate you are about your community. I wish you had the same passion about your job." So that was a wake-up call for me. I didn't like the comment, but I had to take a step back and say, okay, I have this passion for the community. How can I try to make a career out of it? So that was a big part in going back to school. I mean, what was the second part of the question?
Just that, and how you find time for all of it. If you're passionate about it, but you're also pursuing. Some people are saying, "How can I do all of that?" Like you're wearing so many hats and doing so many things. How do you find time for it? But I guess you've already answered it by saying there's your passion. So you find time for what you want to do.
And I'll also add to that, it was really difficult when I went back to school. And because at first I was still trying to figure out how to transition between being at home in Lawrenceville and being in Petersburg going to school. So some days I was traveling back and forth between Petersburg and Lawrenceville trying to make community events and still show up like I had before, but I hadn't mentally transitioned to I'm in a different place in my life. So I had to transition to being a college student again and find ways to pour that same amount of passion into the new community that I was a part of. So I got involved in student leadership here at VSU and was able to continue with my passion of educating others and building community here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Jarielle? I know you are busy, and I've seen a couple of your cooking videos. How do you, number one, start out by saying, where did that passion come from for your community involvement and to have your hands in different, I know you're a part of a sorority also, but all of these different things that you're doing, and then also still having time to, as you're preparing a meal, to pull out your phone and share that part of your life also with the world.
So I always tell people that I'm a functioning scheduleaholic. Like I function so much better when
Say that
there's
word,
something
say that again,
in my
Jarielle. What
life.
was that word again? You're a functioning
Scheduleaholic.
scheduleaholic. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
have to use that.
Yeah, I function so much better when I have a lot going on. Um, I think that that military background and mindset was kind of transferred in the way we were raised in our household. So we're always looking for improvement and ways to be better and for the next thing. So I always have a plan and then a plan after that plan and then a plan after that plan. So that even applies to just my daily lifestyle. As far as what makes me passionate about my community, it definitely stems from just our family being so rooted in the community. My grandma being a social worker and pastors, us having a church. And then very early on, I started participating in extracurriculars like 4-H or and just working with Jinx Bandy for a long time. You got to see different things or meet kids from different counties. We still have friends from Amelia and Nottoway. And then once we got into like the middle school age, I participated in sports. So that just helped. Tiquan and I participated in a lot of extracurriculars together, like SGA or We the People. So just that traveling exposure, the fun of it, always learning something new. Learning is definitely a passion of mine. I feel like I'm being accomplished as long as I'm learning something, whether that's in academia or just everyday life lessons. My passion for cooking also comes from my family, my dad and my papa, for sure. Just being in the household, that was kind of like a responsibility thing, like, hey, come here, let me show you how to do it. You always need to be able to feed yourself. So my dad kind of has this rule where he never wanted us to be in predicaments where we had to wait for somebody to make something for us, so to speak. So why not learn how to make it yourself? If it's something you love, then learn how to make it. And over time, I've just started experimenting and trying different things. And as far as like, being a part of the COVID culture, social media was really a way that people could communicate with each other. So once TikTok and, they added stories to Instagram or stories to Facebook, once that became, very prevalent where you could see small clips of things, just a quick 5 second, 6 second snippet of what we had going on, it became very easy to share that part. And I think it inspires people. I have a lot of people my age that are like, hey, you should put out cookbooks or you should do this recipe, or simply just asking me for meal ideas and stuff, via social media. So just being involved always. And then a lot of my passion comes from behind being from a small town. I think because we're from a small town, like a lot of people end up not feeling like they can't achieve certain things. And I don't believe that there's a limit. As long as I'm willing to work for it, then it's achievable. So I think that as long as I continue to go and do and aspire, somebody behind me is gonna come and want to aspire even more. So that definitely drives me.
That's good. That's good. I want to jump to entrepreneurship. I know we're winding down on our time. So, Tiffani, I know you have that entrepreneurial spirit. So, for people who may not choose a career, a college career, sometimes you can do both. But can you speak to the entrepreneur and how you
Yeah.
came up with that?
Sure. So for me, being an entrepreneur, it happened because I do have a background in broadcast journalism. But like Jarielle was saying, social media is the new wave and the new craze. And I have found myself not working in the career per se that I had gotten my degree in. And I always wanted a seat at the table. But when you go into broadcast journalism, that's an entertainment media, whether it be in front of the camera or behind the camera. Oftentimes is very hard to maneuver and get into. So I decided that I did not want to sit at anyone else's table, that I would build my own table. And that's what I would encourage people who, if you find that what you're doing, you want to do it, you have the passion behind it, but you may not have the lane for, with college or whatever the case, or if you do go to college and you do find yourself, like Monica had mentioned, you go through a few different ebbs and flows to get to where you want to be. Entrepreneurship may be the way to go. And being an entrepreneur does not always mean you're jumping right out there, starting your business, and you are not working another business. Because y'all know I teach. I'm a teacher. I teach first grade. And teaching helps to fund my passion, and teaching helps to fund my dreams. And so I would encourage people, if you have a dream and it's something that you want to do by starting your own business, don't let the fact that you have to work someone else's business stop you from pursuing your dream to work your own business. And just as hard as you work for someone else, if you are an entrepreneur, then you have to learn, and I'm telling this to y'all and myself, you have to learn that you have to be diligent enough to put that much time and energy into your own business, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And getting, understanding what you need to get with like a LLC or a core, a S corp, or whatever those different things are that you need to get. That's a good thing. Doing your research on whatever your niche in your business is as an entrepreneur. Don't just jump out there and say, "Hey, I'm about to start selling T-shirts," and 150,000 people are selling T-shirts. And if that is your passion, yeah, you can sell those T-shirts, but you have to understand your niche market and your target audience and all of those different things. So it takes a lot of work. But I would say don't give up, because like I said, everybody is not going to invite you to their table. And if they don't invite you, then just build your own.
Build your own. That's it. If you build it, they'll come. That's what the saying has, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. All right. So we're winding on up with the time. But before we go, I would like each of you to share one piece of advice. It can be on anything we've talked about, but if you had someone, if you're speaking to that person or when they're watching, what's next? What is that one piece of advice you would give them that you know will be helpful in whichever direction they're going to choose next? And I won't pick people. I'll let you all come on off mute, and whoever's ready can go first. Who's ready to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
So this is one thing that I think I've learned, especially pursuing so much education at an early age. I've had a struggle with this within the past like year. I'm 23, I'm pursuing a PhD, and I have the education, but I don't have the job experience because I simply don't have the age. And that was very discouraging for a period of time. My dad was like, keep applying, you're gonna find something, you're gonna get something. And I'm just like, they don't want me because they want 10 years of experience. And, I was still playing with Barbie dolls. I can't help that, that I don't have the experience. But pray and have lots of faith, especially if you come from a community like we do, where so many of us are believers. You have to pray. And I think that especially for like a high school senior, because my sister is at George Mason now pursuing her bachelor's in computer science. And ultimately, I was very successful at George Mason, but that didn't initially mean that she would be as well. We just are so like and so different that she's thriving, and I'm very, very proud of her. But I think that if I had to tell a high school senior how to pick a college for themselves, the biggest thing is to make sure you can live there. Like I mentioned, that homesickness. Some people aren't able to cope with that. Like my dad said, they gave me a car. I learned how to drive 95 real, real fast. So that way I could, be back and forth. And even still, my sister is the same way. She's adapted to living in the Fairfax area and being okay with traffic. And, I'm just going to get in the car and meet y'all for dinner on Friday, and going back to school. We will literally drive an hour and 45 minutes, just to be able to see our parents and meet them for dinner somewhere in Richmond, and then turn all the way around and go back to school. And you're like, dang, everybody else gets to go home together and I got to go back by myself, but it's fun. And just being in touch and staying in touch, finding that source and sense of community away from home that you can thrive in. Because I'm like, sometimes I've been home for weekends or maybe even weeks at a time. We had long breaks and I'm like, I miss my friends, but you got to be willing to go out and meet people and build and bridge those relationships and those foundations. And don't only pick a school based on academia. It may be the number one school in the country and you may hate it there. It may be too cold, it may be too wet. You may not like the rhetoric. I mean, you may not thrive in that type of environment where you can go to the number 42 and do well and excel and have those grades that get you those scholarships and those foundations. So I would say, yeah, make sure the school is livable. Stay in touch with your community, but like Tiquan said, realize that you're in a different avenue in life. So you've got to kind of redirect your focus to a certain extent, and ultimately, don't stop chasing your dreams because there is no limit to what you can do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jarielle, for your contribution with that. Who
I
wants
love
to go
that.
next?
I'll go next, Marilynn.
Okay.
I definitely love what Jarielle stated, and the most important thing that I did hear you state, Jarielle, is pray. I believe you should pray, over everything. So I do agree with that. But my advice would be is take your time figuring out who you are and not just who others expect you to be. When I state that, it means to explore and don't rush. You don't need to have everything figured out, whether you're heading to college, whether it's trade school, work, or taking time off. You just want to use that next phase to explore your interests and strengths without pressure. And then also learn life skills, things like managing money, handling stress, setting boundaries, and making sure you're communicating clearly would matter as much more than academic skills. So we want to talk about that as well. So you should start like practicing that now. We talked about the village. A village is important. So make sure you surround yourself with the right people, because your circle should support your growth, not stun it, right? You want to find friends and mentors and adults, or, someone in your church who can uplift you and challenge you in healthy ways. Because sometimes you can have people around you that can encourage you to do the wrong things and be toxic. So you want to make sure you have those right people along your pathway. And also don't beat up on yourself too much because mistakes are a part of your journey. You'll mess up. Everyone does. There's nobody perfect. So the key is to learn from it and not let it define you, because growth comes through a process. And then last but not least, don't compare yourself to others, because, we got the internet and social media, and pressure from friends and family can make it feel like you're behind, if you're not doing what everyone else is doing. So just stay focused on what's right for you. That's my advice.
Ooh, I asked for one and y'all just coming with all. I love it. Keep it coming. Thank you so much, Monica. That was good. Who wants to go next?
So mine is when you're a dreamer, when you're creative, when you're a visionary, you're gonna feel crazy sometimes. And my advice is to lean into that, to embrace it. Because when you start to feel that, it's just a sense that you're on the right path. And some people are gonna fall off along the way, but that's okay. You just got to keep pursuing your goal if that's what you really want.
That's good. That's good. Who wants to go next?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of hit on a lot of the things that I was already kind of thinking about, but I think the biggest thing for me is just, I know when you're in high school and you're thinking about, the next 5, 10, 15 years of your life and what that's going to look like, it can seem very overwhelming, and it can feel like you have to have everything mapped out in a straight linear path. But I would say just give yourself grace, give yourself the grace to explore what you do like, what you don't like. You don't have to have everything figured out on day one of college. I think if you just follow what you're passionate about, your ultimate path will find you.
Powerful. This
Okay,
is good. This is good. Yes. Come on,
I'll
Tiffany.
go. I'll say don't take no for an answer. If you know that it's something that you're called to do, when you get one, you'll get 1,000 no's, but keep going because you will eventually get that one yes. And also, don't let money define We know we need money. We need it. And you want to get the money within your career, but don't let the money define your passion and something. If that's your dream, don't let it define what you're going to do. And don't let people box you in, because I was from, Brunswick County. And oftentimes when I would tell people that I was going to I was taking up broadcast journalism and I was going to be in TV, on TV and radio, they laughed at me. But I was very successful in all three of those areas. Now, financially, I did not see a whole lot of gain at the time, but you keep working on it. That's why I say don't let the money stop you from doing whatever it is, and don't take no. Don't let no whatever defines you and what you want to do. So even if it's not going to college, don't let that no, or someone telling you that's what you have to do, define who you are, to thine own self be true, and create your own path and be a trail runner, a trailblazer.
Thank you, Tiffany. That was amazing. Dr. Seward, can you close us on out? What's the advice you have?
So it's been a lot of good advice been given here. I'm gonna steal from what Monica told Tyleek when she first started this conversation, which is do what makes you happy. Because if you try to follow somebody else's path, somebody else's dream, it's gonna be more of a struggle than if you just jump in and have your own passion. I heard Kayla mention how she was passionate about the position she wanted and she had a hunger to learn. And because it's not gonna be easy, you gotta have that hunger and you gotta have that desire. And as somebody said, it's not going to be perfect. You have to give yourself some grace because you're going to make some mistakes. But one of the things I can say is be kind. Be nice because you don't know who you're going to need and you don't know which path you're going to cross. I've learned I have to say no sometimes because I can't always accept every engagement. But I also know that you're going to have a responsibility to give back as well. And so you have to be community minded and know that you're going to have things that you're going to want support on. And so you have to be supportive in order to receive support. And it's just one of those things of treat people how you want to be treated. And always pray. I mean, we grew up in the South, so we all pray. We all believe in church. And as I look at the screen, I mean, we got, as Tiffany talked about, the village doesn't always be the family. Sometimes it's our community. I remember you and I all the way back to playing softball in middle school. I mean, so it's sometimes it's finding those that are around you and bringing them in with you as well. And so I guess my biggest advice is find your passion, find what you like, and then choose your path and to go that way. But realize there are going to be obstacles, there are going to be hurdles. Everybody's not going to be happy for you. And just move forward.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I think we have accomplished what we came to do. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for sharing your story, your challenges, your hardship. But most importantly, thank you so much for sharing your heart. I know that everybody that's on here, we're not just talking surface level. These were things that truly came from the heart of the people who are on here. So I know you all were handpicked, not by me, but by God, to join on this group and to share tonight. So thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So for all of those who may have been wondering what's next and how to successfully plan those next steps after high school and after they graduate, whatever that may look like. I know we have shared some things to help you along that journey. And you won't leave the way you came. That's how they say at church, right? You will not leave
Right.
here the way you came. So those that watch will not leave with that same confusion, that same frustration, that same hopelessness that they may have had. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Coach. Have a good one.
All
Thank you for
righty.
having
Thank
us.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
for the
you so
invitation,
much.
Marilyn. Much success. Prayers for you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.